Hi there, I'm Marz, President and CEO of Wallbridge Mining. Wallbridge trades on the Toronto Stock Exchange under the symbol WM. We've been exploring on our flagship project, Fenelon in Quebec, in the Abitibi region of Quebec. Over the past 3 years, we have made 2 discoveries, and with the acquisition of Balmoral, we now control over 97 kilometers along this underexplored belt that starts from the Ontario border, where the Detour Lake mine is, all the way over to the Quebec side near the Matagami, city of Matagami. We have demonstrated there is a multi-million potential deposit on the Fenelon Gold system. But along the way, we've also started some exploration regionally in order to explore on the Martiniere Gold system that was owned by Balmoral Resources. Our plan is to come up with our maiden mineral resource estimate on the Fenelon project by the end of September, which will also include a restated mineral resource estimate on the Martiniere project. We are looking forward to that and hoping to be able to provide you with an update on the company today.
Fantastic, Marz. Lovely to have you back here. When were you here? February, sometime around.
I think it was February this year. Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, so it's been a while since we spoke. You've been quite busy, but your shares have been gliding downwards. So are shareholders happy at the moment?
Well, I hope they are. January of 2019, our share price was about 16 cents. If someone told me, or any investor, saying in about 2.5 years I'm going to give you 60 or 70 cents to your 16 cents, I'd be handing them the money today. So in terms of value creation, we think we have. Now, sometimes along the way with the project, depending on the stage of the project, there are fluctuations in the share price, and sometimes the market gets ahead of itself for an exploration company to be perhaps close to $1 billion and something when they haven't really got the resource estimate. We certainly know that we will get there. The patient will be rewarded. However, we have to understand that the value creation has been there and will continue to be there, especially when you've demonstrated a large gold system at our Fenelon project, as well as the organic growth along this entire underexplored belt.
Do you think, are you trying to tell me that the market got ahead of itself in terms of what they saw in your company?
I think so. And that's typical of the investors that certainly see ahead of the company or where the company's project is. Like I said, there's no reason in our belief that it wouldn't get there and more. It's just that along the way, sometimes it just gets a little further than where it should have been. And we see that in a lot of exploration, partly because of maybe the speculation factor or promotional factor. We've always been, we've always been trying to make sure that we deliver what we promise or more. And that's probably the difference between us and others. But more importantly, it's the stage of the project. It's 2019 and 2020, we had a lot of good, fantastic results coming out. Today, we have the same fantastic results. But when you have a surprise and another surprise, the surprise is no longer a surprise, it's just known. so that's probably why there is a bit of a depression in the share price as well.
So what's it going to take to move the dial then?
I think the maiden resource, first of all, but more importantly, to demonstrate that there's legs to that original maiden resource, that it can continue being updated and grow in it. And more importantly, the regional exploration, we're hoping that also demonstrates other gold systems, which already has one at Martiniere, but we're also drilling on Cassol property where we optioned from Midland. Kirkland Lake Gold is going to start a program in a few weeks on the Detour East that they optioned from us. So this entire belt hasn't really seen a lot of exploration. So we certainly see that's what's going to take for the share price to continue going up.
Okay, you're getting a lot of advice from retail, from what we can say, certainly about some of the questions sent in about how you need to run this company. So I wouldn't mind exploring some of those suggestions. Okay, and I'm not being facetious or glib here, but these are questions that people are. These are topics that people are talking about, and I'd like you to address them. If you don't mind, let's start with nickel, for instance. Why haven't you monetized the nickel? The nickel price has gone through the roof.
First of all, we're an exploration company. The nickel price for the project would be years from now before it put into production. So to be honest with you, as an exploration company, the metal price fact plays a small factor. Of course, there's a speculation factor. Today, for example, gold price has gone down close to about $30. So you certainly see a lot of pressure, even on the junior exploration companies that aren't even close to production. But in terms of the nickel asset, we had, on our May 12 press release, we explained why it had taken so long, partly because we were dealing with Siboney-Stillwater, with a project that was in Sudbury. But we realized after the Balmoral acquisition that the Grasset itself is one of the largest, higher grade nickel deposit that's not owned by a major. So to spin that out, you want to make sure you're doing it right. You know, we've always said that Wallbridge wants to focus on its gold assets, especially along this entire Detour-Fenelon Gold Trend. And we want to make sure we spin that out or somehow get value from it by not diluting our shareholders today. So to do that, you don't want to hand this to some group that is not capable of getting value for it, because you're actually better off just sitting on it, and rather than giving somebody that's going to lose value. So that was important for us. The management team and the group that needs to do that is key, and not a promotional group, but because we know the project is marquee, it's good. So you better make sure you have the same marquee management team. Second part about it is the fact that we have a lot of interest from various groups, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we get the best valuation for it. So those take long. And at the same time, you know, if you want to give that as a dividend to your shareholders, there's tax implications that need to be reviewed. There is the paid up capital and all of that. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands in the background, there's a lot of work that's being done on the nickel asset spinouts and getting value for it. It just takes more time because we are doing that on behalf of our shareholders to get the best value.
Right. So you're saying it's about timing, valuation, picking the right partner, potential partner. I can see why people are getting excited about it, because nickel's gone through the roof, and statements from BHP about nickel demand going up 500 times over the next decade. It gets people going. But is there no way you could have worked out some monetization event here? Because the last time you raised money was back in April, $20 million, I think it was. Are you good for cash?
We're pretty good for cash. I think in the financial statements that was released for the first quarter, we already demonstrated what we have. But today we're sitting at close to about $70 million Canadian. By the end of the year, we'll be sitting close to about between $30 and $40 million in the treasury. Certainly, this year is well funded and well into the next year. So the issue in here is not. It's not about the cash position, but more importantly, it's about making sure we get more value for what you already have. Look, for us to go ahead and start drilling on Grasset for nickel, where most of our shareholders today, most of our plans, we're laser focused to make sure we get the best value for the gold assets today. And this is the story that where Balmoral had. Balmoral, for many years, they had a challenge of, do I go after gold or do I go after nickel? And every time the one metal price went up, they went after that metal instead of the other one. When you lose focus, that's where the market cap went from $200 million to $18 million. So this is exactly why we do not follow or knee-jerk based on metal prices. You have to make the decisions based on we're here on behalf of the shareholders to get the best value. And we believe that we demonstrate what we tell the market, what we tell our shareholders. You just have to be accepting the fact that we're working on your behalf.
Okay, so that's okay for them to ask questions too, though, right? But I think what I'm hearing is you're saying you don't need the money, so you don't need to knee-jerk rush into something. So it's not about that, and it is about creating. At some point, there could be a spin out, or at some point there could be some monetization event, but you'll choose when because you're not under any pressure. Is that it?
And more importantly, we are working on that. So the matter of choosing is. In the background today, we're probably well advanced into that value creation. And I can't talk about whether it's a spin out, sale, JV or whatnot. But we certainly are closer to it. It's just that it has taken that long, and it's going to take that process to make sure we get the best value.
Okay, another area. So I'm dealing with these sort of outliers, and we'll come to Fenelon, I promise. Okay, but I just want to deal with some of these outlier conversations and narratives going on, and give you a fair chance to respond too. So Kirkland Lake, the relationship share. Obviously, they're a shareholder. Spot's a shareholder. They operate near you. What is the relationship? Do they have any say, input? Or do they drive your decision making, your strategy, or your, where are you going to spend your time, money, and efforts?
No, the answer is no. But let me explain even more, more in detail. We were looking for a strategic partner back in 2019. We always had said that we're looking for a strategic partner. Kirkland Lake was the one who wanted to, be our shareholder, and they've been a 9.9% shareholder. They've been a very supportive shareholder. They have a director on our board, but we all know that. when you're a director of the company, all your interests are on behalf of the company or your directors. And any information that's there cannot be gained by you for the benefit of the other company. Tony McCooch is one of our directors, one of the 8 directors that are on our board. So from that point of view, he has no more control than any other director on the board. Tony does not get involved in the day-to-day operation. I'm the one who's in charge. And in terms of the relationship with Kirkland, of course the relationship has got to be good. You've got a 9.9% shareholder. We also have a very good relationship with Eric Sprague. We also have a very good relationship with some of our larger shareholders that aren't over 10%, but we know who they are. So from that point of view, there is no magic, relationship or a personal relationship that is going to affect the way we operate the company. My job and my board of directors' job is to work on behalf of the shareholders to get they have the best interest of our shareholders. And I know that there's a lot of talk about, whether Kirkland is going to take the company cheap because where they are, or they have a plan. Believe it or not, the last thing we want to do is give the company at a cheaper price because we're also shareholders of the company. So from that point of view, I want to assure everyone that Kirkland is one of those shareholders, 9.9%. But believe it or not, and I'm gonna say this because it's very obvious that a project like Fenelon and Wallbridge as a whole, in terms of what our assets are, it's in the eyes of just about every major gold company. So as a result, from our point of view, Kirkland is just one interested party that's there. But there is a lot of other interests that could potentially be, as far as we know, at 9.9 or less, because they don't have to report that either. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands from our point of view, and major companies, if they didn't look at a project like Wallbridge's at Fenelon, they're not doing their job, because here's a project in the right jurisdiction, with the right assets, and with the right plans, and a good management team. So from their point of view, again, there's a lot of interest, and we're, from our point of view, we're going to carry out this project, trying to get it to the next stage and keep developing this project. And I've always said that if along the way someone taps on my shoulder or our board of directors says, I got a better plan for your shareholders, we certainly is.
Okay, you raised the money at a premium. Certainly it was over $1 anyway, and compared to today's price, that, I'm not so sure I'd be too happy with things as they are. Or are they? Did they knowingly, willingly walk in and pay that price based on what they're seeing 6 months out, a year out? Or do you think they're going to be saying they're slightly upset?
No, and I'll tell you why. First of all, the last 2 bought deal financings that we did in November of last year or October of last year, we did a bought financing of close to about I have the record in here. I just want to make sure it was 63 million Canadian, or 63 and change Canadian. The majority of the investors in that was institutionals. In fact, our institutional shareholding went from 4.3% to over 13% as a result of that financing. That was at $1.15. Institutional investors know what they're investing in. They understand what the project can be. Not today. Again, we talked about people getting ahead of themselves, but institutionals know what they're getting into. So they have a due diligence done. They know it. They see the project. They see the potential and everything else. One, the last financing that we did was a flow-through financing at a premium. And that flow-through financing was backstopped by some other institutions again. And Kirkland, obviously, at each of these successive rounds, they've kept their pro rata. Again, we increased our institutional shareholding even in the last financing that was done in April of this year. And those were all at the premium, but it was a premium that they were willing to pay at the time for what they see in the project.
What are you doing to ensure that someone like Kirkland Lake doesn't walk in here and buy this cheap? Where's the competitive tension coming from? Or can you do anything until this maiden resource comes out?
Well, first of all, we're getting closer to the delivery of the maiden resource, so we certainly are even going to reduce.
What's the date of that again? What's the date of that?
About end of September. We're looking at probably September 30th, because we want to maximize the resource, the maiden resource. So you always want to make sure even your last hole and the last assay is in there. So we've always said that, in Q3, but we're probably going to be on the 12th hour of September 30th to get that delivered, partly because we want to make sure everything that we can put into that, because the project doesn't stop. We, our drilling for the maiden resource today is cut off. in terms of the timeline, because we see how the assays come in. But believe it or not, the project's going to continue to grow because we haven't stopped it. We're just going to continue drilling on that. And the next update to that resource is just going to show that it's going to grow more. So from that point of view, it would be end of September. So we'll be doing that.
But back to the question about the competitive tension, what conversations can you have to ensure that there are different people vying for it, looking at your project with a view to maybe just investing for now, or maybe coming in as a joint venture partner, or maybe somehow monetizing it for you?
Yeah, good question. And I'll tell you right now, what we do is we continue to meet with not only institutional investors, there's a lot of corporate groups that want to meet with us. We definitely have met with a lot of the corporate groups talking about the project and talking about the where we are. And obviously it's all from public information at the initial stages. But certainly that's a kind of a meeting that you would have on top of your disclosures that you have, on top of we have interviews like I'm having with you. We also have it with with other groups that are followed by the institutional shareholders. We have increased our coverage in terms of analyst coverage. We now have 4 analysts: BMO, Paradigm, 8 Capital, as well as Cormark. Those are the 4 analysts that are covering the company, and we're hoping that we can increase that. But obviously, when we come up with the maiden resource, we certainly are going to see more analyst coverage, because some of them have certain criteria in order to initiate coverage.
The management team don't seem to be buying many shares themselves. Why is that?
Well, investment is a personal decision that people make. I can only speak on behalf of myself. I've certainly purchased over the past few months, and we take opportunities when we can, but remember, at the end of the day, we're also employees more than anything else. So you also, from an investment point of view, I want to make sure that it's within my means in order to be able to do that. Okay.
Just finish on Kirkland, a question sent in. Do you happen to know if Kirkland Lake are drilling on Detour East property?
Yeah, so I think I believe that in one of our disclosures, we mentioned that Kirkland is planning to do a program this year in the summer. I believe that within the next few weeks, they're going to start drilling. The preparation work has been done. So the drilling program is going to start sometime in a few weeks. And we are hoping that it'll be finished before the start of the fall. So that's basically, there hasn't been any drilling done yet. So.
Okay, can you just give us your thoughts, just generally in the province, in the region, just generally. You've made an acquisition. We've seen a few acquisitions made this year. Some of the big boys are going in hard. BHP buying nickel project recently, exactly, Noront. Money's getting splashed out because people made money last year. So are you expecting to see more?
Well, I think so. I think if they don't, because remember, at the end of the day, Matt, I haven't seen any of these major companies coming up with major finds, but they do produce anywhere between 1 million to 5 million ounces or 7 million ounces every year. That has to be replenished. and at the end of the day, if they don't do it, they're basically destroying value for their shareholders. So they've got to do something.
Okay, so So your view is that there probably will be some more coming through this year. You're not necessarily vying to be one of those targets, though. Well,
I never said that. As far as I'm concerned, I've said that before, and I continue to say it. We carry out developing the project to its ultimate stage of production. If along the way someone taps on my shoulder, or our board of directors saying, "I got a better plan for your shareholders," we're certainly there to listen. But at the end of the day, remember, every one of our shareholders, whether it's Eric Sprott or whether it's other shareholders, they're invested in Wallbridge because they saw a certain value in it. And we see that same certain value, so we certainly aren't going to sell it for cheap.
We've seen a couple of companies list down in the US. To do that, the share price needs to be at a certain level. Have you got any view on doing either rollback now or listing elsewhere to just try and open up that North American market in a meaningful way?
Look, at the end of the day, trading in the US for our US retail shareholders is important. We understand it. And I think that's one of the reasons we are working on perhaps maybe being on the OTC US so we can. But in terms of being on the NASDAQ or any of those, from our point of view today, we don't see the need. But remember, at the end of the day, as the project progresses, we always it's a fit for purpose actions that we do. It's no different than how we build our team together. Adding to that team as the project grows. the company gets to a certain stage, maiden resources come out, so then you get into economic studies. Maybe we see that opportunity for us to be able to actually trade, maybe even on the London Metal Exchange, much like some other companies have started. I wouldn't want to do that, but yeah. So from that point of view, for sure.
Okay, and the consolidation component?
In terms of consolidation, Matt, I mean, it's something that we've always evaluated. Today, we don't see a need. It has to have an impetus for it. From my point of view, you invest in the company because of the projects they have, the management, the prospects of it going up, and the number of shares doesn't matter, the market capitalization of the company. So in fact, somebody said, I don't know why they have, I do remember one person particularly saying that how come the share price is this other company's share price is $3? And I'm trying to understand, so it's got nothing to do with the share price or the number of shares, it's the valuation of the company.
Okay. We said we'd kind of get onto it. With regards to this maiden resource, Fenelon is the flagship. I appreciate the acquisition and the fact you've got three targets, effectively three discoveries now. What are you doing in terms of the drilling specifically? Because there's a bit of infilling in terms of for the resource component, but then there's also the exploration component and also, trying to understand the extent of what you've got. So, I read something about a 20,000 meter drill program, but what else is going on?
We had a press release, I think it was yesterday or the day before. It was yesterday, actually. But what we said at the beginning of the year, and in May 12 update, was that the first half of the year, we were going to focus on maximizing the maiden resource, because we believe that if we didn't come up with the resource and carried out drilling, market wouldn't know the potential for this, at least the starting point of it and growing. So it certainly wanted to focus on that. So in the second half of the year, our focus is twofold. One is to still extend the mineralization at Fenelon itself, because remember, when we purchased the Fenelon property, it was only a 10 square kilometer. With the Balmoral acquisition, that same property is at about 90 square kilometers. And it's showing that there's 1.8 kilometers of that mineralized system that we need to follow up on. So that's the first fold part of it. The second fold is, in fact, the regional exploration. So today we have a drill that is at Martinier, following up on the mineral resource that originally was done by Balmoral, but most of the higher grade really never was followed up because it was deeper. The second part is the Cassot project. So we're going to have dedicated about 2 drills on the regional exploration for the balance of the year. About 1 or 2 drills will still continue to do the infill drilling to convert whatever we're going to have from one category to another at the Fenelon maiden resource. But the balance of the drills, anywhere between 4 to 6 drills, underground and on surface, will continue to do regional exploration around Fenelon. Because remember, at the end of the day, Matt, a maiden resource will come out. But if we can demonstrate, and we will demonstrate that it continues to grow, we need to put drills on that to carry it out to the potential size of it.
Right. So what exactly is going to be included in the research? I know you want to load everything in that you possibly can. Of course you do. But you've got to kind of set market expectations with that first number, right? Even if you talk about expansion, extensions, etc., and that sets the tone. So have you said anything to the market in terms of the quantum that you would like to be announcing come 30th of September?
Yeah, for the past year and a half, we've been saying that it's a multi-million ounce deposit, and we believe in it, and we believe we will deliver it. There's no doubt in my mind. But
right. So what does that mean? Multi-million. Okay, it doesn't mean 1 million. It could mean 2. It could mean 3. It could mean 4. So you can't give us any sense of what. I know you don't want to overstate or overpromise because that would be a death knell, right? But are you happy with the drill results that you've seen and happy with the numbers that are going into the resource? Are you going to be able to deliver multi-million ounce?
Yes, and yes. So I'm happy with the results. I'm happy with all of the information that's coming in, and I'm very happy with what we're going to be delivering to the market. Now, the market has different expectations, which we don't know. I mean, some analyst coverage, different numbers from X to X. Our job is to make sure we don't disappoint the current expectation, and we don't believe we will.
So on the question of what's going to be in there, is there a cutoff date, or are you working right up to the last day? I mean, how does it work?
So in terms of drilling, we have completed the drilling portion of. We still continue to drill, but we sort of cut off because we're sort of seeing the the time to deliver the assays from the existing holes that we've got to be able to be incorporating into the resource estimate that's going to be coming out end of September. So that part is done. We think that, yesterday's press release did talk about a 1 kilometer by 1.2 kilometer sort of area that we are going to incorporate into the maiden resource, down to about 1,000 meters. And laterally, obviously, we had our first figure of a press release yesterday essentially showed just the underground Tabasco Cayenne zones, that you see this sort of a large mineralized environment of more than 2 grams, which is basically the whole picture. And then within that, it says the higher grade shoot of Tabasco Cayenne. That's basically going to be, that area is going to be where the mineral resource is going to be in. But that's only on the underground portion. The surface portion, as well as the area 51, both surface and underground, will also be incorporated into the maiden resource. And also our Gabbro zones is going to be incorporated. So it's going to be a combination of underground as well as open pittable resource. Of course, there is no geologic reason where the open pit stops and where the underground starts. It's more of an economic component of that. And that's why the qualified persons and the independent consultants take a look, how far can they push the near surface material down, and they consider that to be an open pittable resource. And then anything below that would be the underground type resource.
Okay, so all the assays from the drills that you're going to be using for the main resource are published, they're out? Or is there you got more to come? Sorry, I missed that bit.
Absolutely. So remember, I think we cut off the drilling would be sometime, say, end of July. Everything that we've done to the end of July will be incorporated into the give or take a few days or a couple of holes. So anything to the end of July, but we're still waiting for a number of those assays. And believe it or not, one of the other reasons is that the assay labs these days, over the past 2 to 3 months, have really, really slowed down in terms of the delivery of the assay results. And it's not just typical for us, it's typical for the entire industry. I've talked to a lot of people, and the delivery, the assay time deliveries have increased by threefold in terms of, back in the day when you could get it in 4 weeks, sometimes now it's more than 12 weeks. So we need to, we have recognized that, and that's one of the reasons we hired 3 labs. That's one of the reasons we sort of anticipated that was going to happen. And that's one of the reasons now we have selected a couple of these labs. They understand our timeline with respect to what we just said about end of July delivery of those dates. So we may, we may have a slowdown on some of the results from other areas to make sure that we get the assay labs to work on the drill holes that we need for the maiden resource.
Okay, yeah, no, we're hearing that a lot. Somewhere between 8 and 12 weeks seems to be the average time frame. I think people saying between 10 and 14 days previously. So yeah, okay. Just with regards to so you'll put releases out about those assay results as and when, so people can start maybe thinking about what this could look like. But 30th of September, you will announce it to the marketplace. Understood. With regards to this 20,000 meter drill program, I mean, you've clearly got money to do that. When's that take you through? To end of the year or end of season? Well,
first of all, we carry on. We think that it's going to carry out to the end of the year, and it's 20,000 estimate. But we certainly, if there is time to do 30,000 meters, we're going to do that, because we certainly see that potential on our regional exploration. I mean, just the Martinique alone can actually have more drills. We just want to make sure that we maximize and we prioritize all of our properties. So certainly that drilling is going to, we said we're going to do about 170,000 meters this year. We, plus or minus maybe 10,000 meters. We're going to be carrying that out. Now, like I said, in the second half, the majority of the focus is going to be on more of a regional exploration, as well as more expansion drilling, rather than trying to do infill drilling at Fenelon. So even at Fenelon, we're going to have these, back in the day for the, we used to do 100, 150 meter step outs for the gold system. For the infill drilling, we went back to 50 to 75 meters. So the balance of this year, we're going to go back to those, 150, 100, 200 meters, because we know the gold system is there. So you're going to identify those, and then that sets you up for next year's exploration program to be able to do the infill drilling for the expansion of your initial maiden resource. Okay,
understand that. Question again, a fantastic audience you've got. Sending questions in, but some concerns over the small scale permit, for instance. Why did you not go ahead with that?
It's a great question. It's a question that keeps coming up, and we try to explain it as best as we can. But let me just put it in a very simple, plain language. We had applied for the small scale permit of about 500 to 600 tons a day, roughly about a 30 to 40,000 ounce production per year. Back when we hadn't even understood the larger projects, because we just discovered this Area 51 and the Lower Tabasco. We didn't have an idea at the time of the size potential. As we continued drilling on those, and we continued to see the sheer size of this multi-million ounce potential deposit, the gabbro production would be a disadvantage to the shareholders and to the company to do. And let me explain that why. Let's just say that you were producing 30 to 40,000 ounces a year. Supposing that, because initial capital and everything else, you may have produced maybe $500 to $600 an ounce free cash flow. From those, you're generating maybe 20 million ounces. The after-tax value of that is $10 to $12 million. The project today is requiring $50 to $60 million of exploration. But the minute you're a producer, even as 1 ounce producer, you no longer are eligible to offer flow-through shares for the same deposits or in the same vicinity area, correct? So as you notice, the last financing that we did was close to 60% premium. So if you need $60 million and you were only producing 10 or 12, but you need to dilute the shareholders for that $40 to $50 million still at perhaps at the market price or even at the discount to your share price. Whereas if you didn't produce that 10 or 12 million, you're going to get a 50 to 60% premium. So it's less dilutive to our shareholders to not do that small scale project and operation because of the larger project, because you are now talking, instead of 30,000 ounces, you might be looking at a 300 to 400,000 ounces a year production. So do you want to jeopardize the larger project for the sake of creating 10 or 12 million dollars free cash flow? And that's exactly the reasons why our board of directors, our management, we thought very hard about it because we've delivered that to the market. That's what we were going to do. But when you really look at it, we're here for the best interest of all of our shareholders. And that was in their best interest to do so.
Okay, so you thought about it. It was more expensive, possibly distracting, and possibly damaging to, the risk profile of future success.
More diluted.
Yep. Okay, got it. Understood. So you have done bulk samples. You have made it. You got a bit of revenue from that, didn't you? When you just do a bunch of those little tricks.
I've been in this business long enough to understand bulk samples aren't meant to generate profit. Bulk samples are actually more costly than profit making. Oh. In our case, although we did make a profit, we put that into the infrastructure that we currently are using as our exploration drift going in and trying to do the underground drilling. So yes, the bulk sample was successful in that it actually left us with a pretty good infrastructure to do. But by the way, you can't keep going to the government saying, I want to do another bulk sample because you're not getting that kind of a permit because bulk samples are meant to be testing something, but you can't continue to test. Otherwise, everybody would have been doing that and circumventing the entire ESA and environmental process. Okay,
I know it was a cheeky question, but and very, very cheeky if you did try and get away with it.
Exactly.
Okay, so look, I buy what you said at the beginning with regards to share price in the context of the last 2.5 years has grown. Maybe the market did get ahead of itself slightly. I'll buy that. You've got a program now to deliver by September 30th. That is going to be a defining moment for you. And you're telling me that you are quietly optimistic, cautiously optimistic is the phrase, about what you're going to be able to present to the market.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I have no reason to believe that our multi-million ounce deposit is not going to be a multi-million ounce deposit.